course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast that feels like you're chatting with friends. I am one of your friends, Dave. We're joined as always by our other friend, Ike. Ike, how are you?
Hey, I can't complain. Living the dream. Just I was playing some Resident Evil 4 before we were playing, and that'll Resident Evil will come into play a little bit later in our news, I think, or birthdays, I should say.
Yeah. Well, all right then. Let's get into it because we got a lot to do. We've got 2 reviews today. Now, last episode we said we were reviewing Bloody Axe Wound, and we still are. But we decided that we had to add Popeye the Slayer Man in, given our love of public domain horror. So we will also be reviewing that today. That's coming up later in the show. Before we get there, Ike, did you watch anything else?
Yeah. So, excuse me. We were watching that show from season 3 of that just dropped not too long ago, and we just got around to finishing season 3. Really good season. Left it on a cliffhanger. So hopefully there will be a season 4 in the works. Then after that we started Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets. We've watched the first 2 seasons already, but season 3 is being released as we speak on Paramount Plus. So I've been watching season 1 and 2. We actually just finished season 1, and we're starting season 2. So really another really good show. And then in addition to that, recently I visited the library that my wife works at because it's part of a library system in the area, and I have a library card, so I went and checked out a movie collection actually. So sometimes, and I don't know if every library does this, but down here they have what are called binge boxes at the library. Now these are hand curated by the people at the library, so this is just a really cool thing. But this is called Warning, Don't Watch on an Empty Stomach. And then it has 6 movies, okay? It has The Green Inferno, Raw, Saw, Slither, Tusk, and a movie called The Ruins. So today I actually watched The Green Inferno again because I haven't watched it in a while. So I watched it from the library, which is really cool. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere, but man, it's free at the library. Might as well take advantage of that.
Yeah, I don't think The Green Inferno is streaming anywhere. Because I looked to rewatch it here not too long ago and I couldn't find it. So I don't know. I don't think that it is on. I think it's just a little too much for some of the streaming services, maybe. But yeah, those are definitely some movies that you don't want to watch on an empty stomach or a full stomach or whatever else. There could, if you have a weak stomach, there could be some regurgitation no matter what there.
I think so. So. But that was just something cool I found in the library. They had other collections too. Like they had a Scream collection. It has Scream like 1 through 6. So for some, I think that's all of them, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's never seen the Scream movies, get a library card, go to the library, check out that. You can better watch every single Scream movie without having to subscribe to a streaming service, and it's free. And so this is just a little bit of a personal endorsement for the public library that, hey, maybe we shouldn't defund this because it's actually really cool. Anywho.
Yeah, think?
Yeah, libraries are fucking cool, man.
Let's defund anything that's going to help people become more intelligent. But yeah, I would find it highly ironic if anybody listening to this podcast has not seen all the Scream movies, but you never know, I guess.
Right.
But
given how much we talk about it.
Yeah, given how much we talk about Screams, I mean, if you haven't seen them, what are you doing with your life? But let's see. I didn't watch anything, or at least nothing horror related. So yeah, I don't think so. I watched some stuff, but nothing beyond the movies for today. So that was horror related. So all right then, let's move on to our first segment. Order up!
Here's one house special cheesy slasher. Enjoy.
And it's time for Cheesy Slasher of the Week. Now, this is where we present to you a cheesy slasher or just a, you know what, maybe just a non-mainstream type movie because that's what we have today. It's not really a cheesy movie per se, but it's a movie that's maybe kind of flown under the radar for some people and that, are not aware of this. And we present to you, in the vein of the public domain horror, we present to you Snow White, A Tale of Terror, which was released August 24th, 1997, direct to Showtime, written by Deborah Sarah Tomzlowski, and based on characters by the Grimm brothers, of course, directed by Michael Cohn, starring Sigourney Weaver, Sam Neill, Gil Bellows, and others. And this is a very early example of public domain horror. Now, I know this is just from 1997. I know there is public domain horror before that. But this is kind of one of the more recent, let's jump on this bandwagon type deals. Now, this film was originally going to release to theaters, but they decided to just release it straight to Showtime. I don't know the reason why. There was nothing, that in my research that said why. I guess they just maybe thought it wasn't going to perform in theaters, I guess. But the part of Snow White in the movie was originally planned to it was actually written for Alicia Silverstone, but Monica Keena played her instead. So again, I don't know why the switch. I don't know if Alicia Silverstone said no. I don't know whether she was doing something else, but they had her in mind when they wrote it, and she did not play it. So I don't know. I've not seen this movie. I've heard kind of mixed things, that it's okay, whatever else. I have heard that Sigourney Weaver does a pretty good job in this movie as the Wicked Witch or whatever she's called. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know anything about this movie. But I do know this, like I said, one of the kind of an early example of public domain horror. Have you ever seen Snow White: A Tale of Terror?
Yeah, I can't say that I have seen that, but I should definitely check that out.
Yeah, I guess in the '97 time frame, this was not the kind of movie that I would be trying to watch. So, but it is what it is. We do like the public domain horror, so yeah, this might be something worth um, circling around and revisiting and seeing what this is like compared to some of the recent stuff put out there. So, especially in the wake of the current live action Snow White movie that people seem to say is just an utter and complete dog's breakfast and just not worth anything. Um, but I don't know. I have no interest in seeing it. Never have had an interest in seeing it. But I've not heard anything good about it or much good about it. So be it. I think it's just a ploy for Disney to keep that copyright. So, but anyway, let's move on. Talk to us, Internet. And it's time for Talk to Us Internet. This is where Ike and I either respond to listener feedback or pick up on a point that someone has made on social media and talk about it for a moment. And with the recent, whatever you want to call it, rash or whatever you want to say of public domain horror, right? There's been a lot out there, a lot more to come. I saw someone present, hey, is our creators running the risk of overdoing public domain horror movies and that the novelty will wear off? Ike, what do you think about that?
You know, I think that that's a very real possibility because if you look at any genre of horror movie, there comes a period of time where people will basically just completely hammer it to death, and it's sort of a test to see if the genre is actually good or if the genre is just novelty. So like you have genres like the slasher genre and things like that. And I know that this is sort of like a meta genre where this is sort of like there can be slasher, you know, public domain horrors or monster public, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think that if you look at public domain horror like 20 years from now, basically people are either going to look back on it fondly and say, yeah, we got some really good gems out of this, or like you said, people are going to look back on it and be like, holy shit, they completely beat this thing to death. Like, there's absolutely no reason why we needed to have three different Steamboat Willie, uh, public domain horror films, or whatever the case may be. I personally think that we're on the track right now. We're a little too early to really tell, right?
Yeah.
We're at the beginning of the roller coaster. I think we're not going to be able to see that we're going off the rails until we're a little bit further along. Um, at least right now, I have confidence that like creators will know, like, hey, it's time to put this to bed. But these are the same creators that made 100 Halloween movies and 100 Friday 13 movies, 100 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So it's the same breed, and I don't know. I do have that worry that people are going to get tired of it really quick because of how many movies are being pumped out. But I'm hopeful that even though we have volume, that we also have quality, and as long as that quality maintains, I think we should be good. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, there's a couple so far in my view, there's a couple of red flags and then a couple of things, potential red flags, right? The red flags so far in this, right? I love this public domain horror. We've made that clear that we love it so far. So far, I think there's been some good stuff. Now there has been some not so good stuff, which is one of my red flags, right? Of people jumping on when something becomes public domain. And like you mentioned, we get an oversaturation of a specific property, like the Steamboat
Right.
Willie, right? Steamboat Willie, in and of itself, the application of it to horror is fine and can be done. But when we get, two, three, four, whatever, however many it's been, where we don't even know, right? We're trying to think through, oh, how many has there been? That to me is a little bit of a red flag. Kind of like with the Popeye thing that we're reviewing today, in that we weren't aware or didn't realize or didn't remember there was already a Popeye done,
Yeah.
right? Popeye's Revenge, and that and and that's this is not as oversaturated, right? Because there's only been the two, but that's the problem is it's trying to keep straight what's what sometimes. I do love the concept of this the Puniverse thing and them focusing in on these and creating this universe of these. But like we said, it's hard to keep track. Okay, well, is this them? Is this certain movie? Is it them? Is it somebody else? What falls in there? And and I don't see that being any different as we move forward. And anything else potentially becomes public domain. As soon as something becomes public domain, people are going to jump all over it, and we might get three or four different iterations. There's nothing going to stop that. Everybody is going to have an idea. Everybody's going to race to try to be the first to do it or the best to do it. And I think that might be the biggest issue that might burn people out is
Yeah.
just this concept of everybody trying to cash in on it. Um, I like the whatever they're called. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Puniverse. I can't remember what they're called. Twisted Childhood, something like that. There's something they have a name for their little thing.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they are staying focused on it, and really working within this realm of this is what we're going to focus on. This is this public domain stuff. Um, lots of other companies are just doing the one offs and whatnot. That's no one's to say one's right, one's wrong. No one has more right than another to do it. Um, but I don't know. It might be an issue when we get so many people doing interpretations of the same thing, where it all kinds of gets lost in the blur, and we don't know who's who and what's what. And again, we've been excited for Screamboat because it's David Howard Thornton and everything else, but I'm almost getting to the point now where it's like I'm looking forward to it, but my excitement's kind of waned just a bit because I've almost felt like, well, this, the Steamboat Willie thing's kind of passe at the moment, right? So a few people have done it. I feel like we're moving on. What's the next that, it's we've seen this now, um, and not to say they won't do it and they won't do it better. Um, but when someone takes the time to do it in a different way and put a little more work into it, and you've already had two or three that have cashed in quick, it's almost like by the time the quality, more quality when it comes out, you're almost like, I don't know. I mean, I've already seen this. Even if this is a little better, I've already seen three takes on this. I'm a little worn out on it. So I don't know. Like you said, it's too early to tell. I hope some people maybe jump on another novelty and let people who truly have an interest in this kind of focus in. So far the strongest stuff has come from the Puniverse people.
Yeah,
Overall, I think, from what I've enjoyed, the people that have just tried to kind of jump in there peripherally, you know, I don't know. And again, I didn't see the Popeye's Revenge. We were doing Popeye the Slayer Man today, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. That's not those people, but again, that's only two movies. It's not really like it's been oversaturated. So, um, it's just odd. I'm surprised. I don't know. I'm surprised we've not seen more than the one Pooh movie. Someone else hadn't tried to cash in on it, and um, I don't know. And maybe maybe it's just the thought of doing something Mickey Mouse related. So many people have jumped on that. I don't know. It's a fine line, and it's one of those things as a viewer you have to kind of weed through and try to, if you like it, try to pick out the stuff that you like and the stuff that's not so good about it. But that's kind of true of any trend, right? I mean, whether it be vampires are the trendy thing or zombies are the trendy thing, you get stuff that's good and stuff that's not, and you just got to kind of sort through it. So,
right.
um, but I have a feeling that eventually it's going to pass, just like any other kind of trend, and something else will move on. But the one thing that might set this apart is the fact that of different properties becoming public domain. If there's some other stuff, that and characters that can be used. So, um, it's a weird line to walk with this stuff, and especially this day and age where it's like, I don't know, it's weird where people, you get some really creative ideas, but then you get people that are just trying to remake stuff and cash in on stuff. And so, like always, right? I mean, it's the same concept of straight to DVD movies used to do, but where they would do
Yeah, absolutely.
spoofs of pretty much anything in a horror related or whatever. Um, so I think there is the risk, but so far so good with me. I still have a lot of interest in this. I'm still very intrigued. I'm still very interested. And again, we'll touch on that more with our one of our reviews here later. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
oh, all right. Well, then let's move on.
Two truths and an AI.
And it's time for Two Truths and an AI. This is where I present to Ike three descriptions of movies. Two of them are actual produced movies. One of them is just a fantasy movie produced, or excuse me, presented by or created by AI. And Ike is tasked by trying to figure out which one was the AI movie. So, uh, Ike, you've typically been pretty good about this, but the last couple have kind of got you going. So
Yeah.
these are put together by Monica. So either she's done a little better with her parameters and her descriptions to try to help them blend a little easier, or I don't know. But we'll see what happens today. Ike, are you ready to try it out?
Let's see what happens. I'm ready.
All right. Our movie number one is After a Man, His Girlfriend, an Addict, Son. Oops, excuse me. Let me try this again. After a man, his girlfriend, and addict son rape and murder two teenage girls, one of their moms and dads seek revenge. That is the first movie description.
Okay.
Movie number two, a small town family with a dark secret that goes far back into their family history is set to fulfill their annual ritual for prosperity. That is
Okay.
description number two. Movie number three, a family of cannibalistic predators prey on unsuspecting people who have the unfortunate luck to be targeted by this father and four children. Okay, so those are the three movies. Ike, would you like any of them repeated?
Well, let me think here. So the first one sounds like Last House on the Left. The second one kind of sounds like that Samara Weaving movie where the family, it's like, I don't remember what it's called now, but they have to repeat the first or the second one to me.
All right. It is described as a small town family with a dark secret that goes far back into their family history is set to fulfill their annual ritual for prosperity.
Okay. So yeah, the first one I feel like is definitely Last House on the Left. I feel pretty confident about that. The second one kind of sounds like the movie Ready or Not, but that one is like a wedding, and there's no mention of a wedding. And the third one also sounds. I mean, the third one could be like Wrong Turn or The Devil's Reject. No, no, The Hills Have Eyes. My bad. So, oh man, out of those, and this is hard. I'm gonna say the second one was AI.
Okay. So you say movie number 2 is AI. So here we go. Movie number 1. After a man, his girlfriend, and addict son rape and murder 2 teenage girls, one of their moms and dads seek revenge. From 1972, that is Last House on the Left,
Yeah.
which is Wes Craven's directorial and writing debut. Movie number 2. A small town family with a dark secret that goes far back in their family history is set to fulfill their annual ritual for prosperity. That is the AI movie using the parameter of family that kills. And movie number 3, a family of cannibalistic predators prey on unsuspecting people who have the unfortunate luck to be targeted by this father and 4 children. That is from 1977, The Hills Have Eyes, Wes Craven's third film as writer and director. So, Ike, you got it right. And not only that, but you had both the other movies pegged for what they were. So,
I'm very surprised by that. Apparently,
yeah.
this was Wes Craven's week.
It was, yes, yes. And I did point that out to Monica when she handed it to me. I was like, huh, what's Wes Craven's deal with families that murder?
Right.
Did anybody ever look into Wes Craven's family, familial past? I don't know. So there you go. Very well done. Ike has kept us safe and defeated the AI yet another turn. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we will have our news, birthdays, anniversaries, all of that fun stuff. So stick around.
Make sure you subscribe to listen to their screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
Spread the news. Spread the news. Spread the news. And welcome back with the news. All right, so starting us off, there is a new trailer for Final Destination Bloodlines. The movie is coming to theaters on May 16th. Dave and I both checked out this trailer, and it definitely elaborates significantly on what the movie's about. From what I can tell, I don't think there's any other than Tony Todd, who is in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any other legacy characters from like any of the original films, so I don't know. They said that this wasn't a sequel, right? That this was supposed to be just like its own thing, but it's like in the same universe. Or did we ever get confirmation about that?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the trailer did imply that the old lady was somehow tied back to the first movie. I don't know if she's trying to be a character or related to a character because she says that for whatever 20-something years, death has come for the family. She's got that book with all these sketches and notes, and some of them it panned pretty quick through, but some of them look like drawings and sketches of some of the stuff from the the first movie, different movies, but some of them back to the first. So I don't know if she's supposed to be an older version of someone from the first movie, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Um, but somehow I think they are trying to tie it back to all the way back through to the first movie that there's that death is coming for the specific family and really coming for them. Um, because it does say something about some of the kids and oh, I say kids, but they're not like kids. They're but they're 20 somethings and whatnot. Say that that death's trying to correct things because they shouldn't even exist because someone that death targeted in I guess a previous movie or whatnot should have been killed. So therefore the ancestry should have stopped and these people should not exist, have been born. But since they overcome, they did. So I think it's supposed to tie, but again, I don't know if it's kind of retconned a little bit or if it's supposed to be an actual character. I don't know. I haven't really researched much, and I don't remember enough to know right off the top of my head. But yeah, it was a little sad seeing Tony Todd in the trailer and knowing that that he'll be in this, and this is it. This is the last work of Tony Todd right here. That will be put out. So that's a little sad, but
Yeah,
so
it
but
is.
it does look pretty good, right? It has all that. It looks like it has all the typical tropes of Final Destination movies, but it looks like maybe the story's a little deeper, right? There's a little more to the story, but just in the trailer alone, we saw a couple of wacky kills, right? So
Yeah.
happening in the typical Final Destination way. So I'm intrigued. I'm excited to see it, and looks fun at least.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. I think that the trailer kind of provides some of the charm that was given with the original Final Destination. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that on the 16th. Now, in addition to that, there's also a trailer out for our new trailer, a more extensive trailer perhaps, of Clown in a Cornfield. The movie is coming to theaters on May 9th. And man, I'm super excited for this. And I've read the book, and obviously, I'm definitely going to be one of those guys who goes and watches it, and I'm like, this one's not exactly like the book, um, but
Uh,
I kid. I'm excited. It looks good from what I've seen in the trailer and from what I have read. It is given an R rating, so that's what I've heard. I guess that could change, but it's being released by Shudder, so I see no
yeah,
reason why they wouldn't want to have an R rating. Shudder has a lot of really fucked up shit on their on their streaming service, so
yeah.
I think a little bit of a R there should be fine. But yeah, I'm super stoked. The trailer kind of put together some additional pieces, other characters that we didn't get to see in earlier trailers. So I'm excited. I think it'll be a good time, and I'm pumped to see what the product ends up being like.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, yeah, it looks fun by the trailer. You know what? I mean, clowns are creepy, no matter
Yeah.
how you portray them, and this is no different. And and you run the risk with this if clowns have been done and done and done, but this is there's a good reasoning why this is a clown, right? It's the whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you call it, mascot or whatever you want to call it for this product produced
Mhm.
in this town, and so there's a reasoning why it's a clown. So that's I like that. There's it at least explains why. And looks, I mean, I don't know, looks good to me. Looks creepy, looks scary, looks like there might be some blood. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And assuming that they do exactly what they did in the book, or at least somewhat similarly, um, it's pretty sinister, like what's going on. And so, assuming that it's at least moderately the same, I'll be very interested to see how it's portrayed. But yeah, it's pretty sinister, like what's actually happening. Um, and I won't go any more deeper than that. Honestly, the book, when I read it, I was incredibly surprised. I was like, holy shit, that's pretty fucked up. But Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm very excited. The book was good, so I imagine this was good. And like you said, good old Friendo the clown, the mascot of Baypin. I think it's like corn syrup or something like that, is what they
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
But all right. But check out Clown in the Cornfield on May 9th. And then we're going to move on now to the Saw franchise. Has issued an official statement via Billy the Puppet, of course. I want to play a game. Saying that it is never over. Never over. Never say never. And the franchise will continue in some way. This is obviously comforting news to hear in the wake of the revelation that the next Saw installment was canceled. Um, Dave and I have always talked about, it's always unfortunate that a installation in any franchise that you love is canceled. And especially since we kind of felt like Saw X really revitalized the series for lack of a better phrase. It just seemed like this was the step towards really pushing it to the next level, even further than it was before. And then they're like, nope, fuck it, we're just going to cancel it with little to no explanation. So maybe there's other projects in the work that'll hopefully satisfy us until we get another Saw movie, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. This is so weird. I mean, I guess Saw's the new Scream, where we don't know what's happening. The movie has been taken off the calendar. There's all these online rumors that there's some form of a series. I mean, even people that are sharing a lot of stuff saying there's a series going to come to Netflix and blah blah blah. But there's nothing confirmed about that. Nothing, right? And in this kind of statement, who knows? I mean, is it legit? Is there legit hard plans in motion, or is this just saying, you know what? They canceled the movie, they took the movie off, but never fear, we're going to figure something out. Just give us time. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, we don't. I don't know. But I feel confident enough that they're going to be proactive in trying to get something done, uh, and move forward with the franchise. Um, it is I don't know, it's still peculiar to me that they canceled the movie and all. I guess there was a lot of production issues and a lot of infighting and whatever, but given Saw 10 was pretty successful, it seems odd.
Yeah.
But when I don't know, when something's a success and there's money involved, people get to be assholes and it causes problems. And so there, you get some infighting, and well, that just ruins it for everybody. But so who knows? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully something. Um, Hopefully we don't have to wait, too long for whatever that is. I mean, I do feel confident that at some point in time we'll get something new related to Saul, but hopefully we don't have to like wait a decade or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
but
No, I agree. Like you said, I read the same thing that there was some infighting in the production and that, halted some things. And then instead of just halting, it ended up, causing further delays and ultimately probably caused what we have going on now. But like you said, you just got to kind of have to roll with the punches. Like you said, also, it's Scream all over again. So we'll see what happens. But anywho, moving on, Linda Cardellini has officially signed on to play Pamela Voorhees in the A24's Friday the 13th prequel series, Crystal Lake. This is IMDb official. It's on there. She's listed. There's other stuff in the news that have been released about it. So this is exciting. It's slow movement, but it's movement. Friday the 13th has we were talking just a second ago, of course, about the whole Scream thing and how there's infighting. Friday the 13th is, I would say, notorious for having issues with, rights and who holds the rights and who does X, who does Y, who does Z. So it is, promising to see some movement in terms of casting, but we still haven't seen hardly anything about this movie. It feels like they've been really dragging their feet, or I'm sorry, television series. So I'm really curious to see, like, are we going to get anything more official, more concrete, like a release date, like anything? It's just, I feel like we've been talking about this for as long as we've been doing this podcast. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it's like when the announcement was first made, there was all kinds of stuff, right? Oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and so and so is going to come back and be part of it somehow, and this person's going to, and then it's like, oh, okay, no, these people aren't. We don't know what's happening, and then it's like nothing for a while, and now this. So hopefully, this is a promising sign. Hopefully, the floodgates open and this thing starts really moving forward, and sooner than later we get this because you know what I want to see. I want to see what they do. I want to see what they how they do this. Um, I like her a lot. I think it's a good casting, and but I'm curious to see how they do this to add to the whole Friday the 13th mythos, and it's like, come on, just I mean, we have the biggest franchises, right? The Friday the 13th and Halloween and um, Nightmare on Elm Street. They've become dormant all of a sudden, and
Yeah,
I mean, I know Halloween's not been as dormant as the other two, but it's like, come on, we're talking the three of at least the biggest money making horror franchise of all time, and you guys can't put your shit aside to make some more money. And I don't know. So hopefully, at least we get this, and
right.
let's see what happens. Hopefully, this is a positive move. I mean, she could sign on, and who knows? Though months down the road, they can say, "Ah, screw it, we're not doing it now," and that's that. I mean, this is something. It's a positive thing, but it's definitely not a definitive. We're ready to roll on it because I don't. I mean, we need more casting. We need more something. That's one name. Let's uh
Exactly.
let's do some more. Let's really get going.
Yeah. But all right. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait until we, a couple more months for another actor to be dropped, and then a couple more months for more information to be dropped, and we'll just get information every like 2 to 6 months about it.
Yeah. At least they keep providing us with little kernels of news here and there, I guess.
Right. But we'll see. But in the meantime, The Strangers Chapter 2 is now officially releasing in theaters on September 26th. It's we haven't had a whole lot of news about this. There was like rumors that they were going to release these back to back, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, there were rumors that Strangers Part Two was going to release last year. You know what I mean, with
Yep.
the other one. Um, so I'm glad that we have an official release date. I'll be curious to see when they drop Part Three, or how that goes. But yeah, I'm excited. I liked Part One; it was decent. And I think part two will help expand a little bit on that story and hopefully give us some a little bit more, tidbits here and there.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's a good thing to get a release date. The bad side of this is this. The reason we're getting this release date is because this is now in the Saw 11 slot.
Oh
That was
yeah,
that's where Saw 11 was supposed to be, but when they pulled a Saw 11, that's where they put this. So, you know what? I guess, hey, if you're gonna pull one, at least we get something else there. And and yeah, I mean, Strangers Chapter One was it was all right. It's pretty good. And but now I'm really super intrigued because that's kind of the movie they had to do to lay the foundation. And now I'm really intrigued now what they do because now they can really creatively do something, do their thing. And so I'm curious what happens here. So yeah, looking forward to it. And I guess we'll know this fall.
yeah, exactly. But very good. We'll keep an eye out for it in September. But we have one last little bit of news. Terrifier, the arcade game, is getting released for PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch later this year. I did see some rumors that it was going to get a Steam release or that it was available on Steam, so PC players should be able to get it as well. But as far as Xbox is concerned, it seems as if this will not hit Xbox. Not sure why, or if that's just like later down the road. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But at least for right now, for sure, PlayStation and Nintendo are getting it. And then, like I said, I've seen people saying that it's going to be available on Steam, so it's hard to say if that's true or not. Um, but yeah, I mean, this will be good. Obviously, Art the Clown getting pushed into the video game territory is interesting. From what I can tell, this is just a basic, arcade game, side scroller type game, similar to the Evil Dead and Halloween arcade games that we got not too long ago. Um, the price of this is pretty um, outstanding, I guess.
Well,
Uh,
there's two versions, right? There's just the standard game, but then there is also one that's $100 and something dollars. That one comes with there's all kinds of stuff that comes with. It's
right,
got like different merchandise. I mean, whatever you want to call it, like prints and I don't know, like different things, memorabilia and collectible stuff. I know. I think the standard game is around 40 something dollars. Um, from what I look when I was looking into it, that, like I said, there is a version that's 100 and something, but that's the collector's thing with all kinds of merchandise type stuff. I don't know what all it's got. There's all kinds of stuff that comes with it. So um, it's it's wow. I mean, this kind of caught me off guard because I knew this game was out there and whatnot, but I don't know. I guess I never thought they would kind of get this release for some of your major platforms. I really because I don't know. I guess I thought it would already have happened or something. I don't. It was weird when I saw this. I was like, huh, that's pretty crazy. So, but
wow,
it's the unstoppable power of Art the Clown. He's just taking over everything.
that's right. But very good. I'll have to check it out. I'm curious if they will bring it to Xbox and if it might be like a Games Pass game. That'd be pretty cool. They get that definitely get it some free promotion too.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, I would prefer it because I have an X, and I'd prefer it on that. I do have a Switch, so I mean, push come to shove, I could get it for Switch, but I would prefer it on my Xbox. But
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, but that's not again. That happens with games, right? They get licensed for certain platforms. It's not necessarily all three, and I don't know. The other comes late. Who knows? Or it may never happen. Who knows? My fear
True.
is that it's like not been announced, so it's like okay, I'll break down, I'll buy it for the Switch, and then no sooner than I buy it and get it for the Switch, it'll be announced that it's coming out for Xbox. I'll be like, God damn it! But
Well, yeah,
who knows?
that's always my fear too with any video game these days because I have the Xbox Series S, which is like the digital Xbox doesn't have a disc drive. Um, and then I have a PlayStation 4, which is the old generation. They're slowly but surely stopping to release games for the PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
So I'll eventually be forced to upgrade to a PlayStation 5, and then I do have a Nintendo Switch, which obviously Nintendo Switch is great, but
yeah. I mean,
I would prefer it on a console that I use more often, like the Xbox.
me too. Although, I mean, this would be a fun game to have on the Switch, and for like if travel and whatever to have on the handle. This is kind of given the type of game it is. I guess this would be kind of a fun game for the Switch. That would work well with it. But yeah, again, I would prefer it on the Xbox, but I don't know. Who knows? I'll probably end up breaking down and getting it for the Switch, and then if it comes out on Xbox, I guess I don't know, buy it again. I guess if I like it.
Buy it again. Why not? But all right, now we're gonna move on here. That's all of our news. We're gonna move on to an upcoming birthday, April 2nd, 1984. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Roberts, known for his role in Here for Blood, and he was also in Resident Evil. He played Albert Wesker in the Paul W.S. Anderson films. Um, yeah, I love Sean Roberts. I know we talked a lot about him with Here for Blood, and
Mhm.
Here for Blood was a really fun movie. So just overall, love him. Happy birthday to Sean.
Yeah, he was so good in that movie, and it was. I love it. That movie was so fun. And it's one of those movies I think, I saw this birthday and I thought, man, you know what? I need to rewatch that movie because it was such a blast. And he was so good in it. And but yeah, I hope to see him in some more horror stuff in the future because he's one of those guys that I think he can pull off no matter what he does. But whatever. Selfishly, I want to see him do more horror.
Right. No, absolutely. I do too. I think that he was a very good Albert Wesker in the Paul W.S. Anderson movies. I just think that he was in the wrong movies because obviously they're not going to make any more with him in it because Paul W.S. Anderson is a thing of the past. But I digress. But happy birthday, Sean. Hopefully, we'll see you soon in another movie. But moving on to some upcoming movie anniversaries. We have March 27, 2015, It Follows. This is probably one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's a bit contentious. I think we mention this every time. Dave and I have a mutual
Yes.
friend who hates this movie. Like
Yes.
any chance he gets, he will tell you how much he hates this fucking movie. Um,
Monica also hates it.
she does. And me and Kayla, we both really like this movie. I remember we went and watched this in 2015 when it came out. It came out in the theater that we used to work at. I wasn't working there at the time because I had left just right after this came out. But I remember we went back to watch this movie specifically, and we both loved it. Thought it was so cool. I have a steel book of it. Like, I love this movie. Like, I will talk about this movie with anybody who wants to talk about it. Such a good movie. Then anytime I bring it up to our mutual contact, it is always, oh, that's a piece of shit movie. What are you talking about? A haunted STD, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my God. So I don't bring it up anymore.
Yeah, he hates this movie. And full disclosure, you know what? I've never seen it. So weird that I have yet to watch. It's almost like I'm afraid to commit and dive into this conflict and this split on this movie between you and Mr. Red. And it's like I don't want to get caught in the middle of this and say, both of you be like, okay, what'd you think? What'd you think? I'm like, you know what? So far, I'm just gonna hold off watching it and not partake.
Yeah, and that's honestly for the best. I genuinely think that like if you liked the movie, that he would probably like try and like kill you in your sleep or something like that. So that's always the risk you run with him. But
Perhaps.
in any case, it's a good day to be an anniversary for them. So good job there. And supposedly we're supposed to be getting a sequel to that movie at some point. So if that were to happen, you actually may have to watch It Follows because we'll
Mhm.
definitely review the sequel.
Yeah.
But in any case, we're going to move on to March 28th of 1979. We have Phantasm. Phantasm's a good one. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's unique. Little flying ball of death is really cool. And the orb or whatever the hell they call it with a little drill bit on it. And then the creepy guy who's in all of them. I can't remember his name, but good movie, fun times. It's been a while since I've seen these actually, so I need to check them out soon.
Yeah. This is one of those where the sequels are not, at least in my eyes, not as good as the others. But I do love the first one. I think it's a very, very good movie and pretty unique. So, but you won't ever probably see me tooting the horn of any of the sequels.
Not at all. The sequels are subpar at best, so no, that's my opinion. This one man's opinion. But moving on, we're going to move on to March 28th, 1986, April Fool's Day, which we actually recently talked about for a generation gap just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
So that was a good time. But yeah, April Fool's Day is a good one. It's unique
it
again,
is.
colorful, good movie from the 80s. Again, I wouldn't say it's winning any awards, but it does have some significance, I guess you would say, to sort of the holiday themed horror movie genre.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's to me, it's up there on that list of from the '80s. Of you got to watch it. You just need to watch it. I know it was remade whenever. I've not seen the remake. Um, but I like the first one enough. I don't know what you could have. It's one of those movies. It's like, yeah, why remake that? It's like, I don't. You're not going to really improve on it. It's like I don't know. It's weird to me. The first one, it's got its own charm. and it's good as is.
Right.
But to each
Absolutely.
their own.
Very much true. Very much true. To each their own. But all right, moving on to March 30th, 1988, Beetlejuice. Um,
Speaking of charm,
yeah, speaking of charm, Beetlejuice is such a good movie.
yeah,
It's one of those movies that when you watch it, like you say, it's not a perfect movie. It's not the best movie that's ever been made, but it has that very cheesy like charm that comes with like horror comedy. And it's definitely a cult favorite. I mean, it got a sequel, Beetlejuice, and that was a good movie too. There was a lot going on in that movie, but it was still a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, come on, how can you not like Beetlejuice?
I love Beetlejuice. Such a good movie, but I'm just a Michael Keaton groupie. I love Michael Keaton. Um, I just think he's phenomenal, and I just Beetlejuice it's just fun, man. And I mean, when this movie came out, I was 13 years old. So this movie was hitting on all the marks for a 13-year-old, and there's a reason I love it. But
Right.
I think it stands up. I really do. I think it's a movie I mean, well, I mean, the fact that you like it shows that. I think, people, it's one of those timeless type movies. I think it'll always be fun and appreciated.
No, I definitely think it will. It's one of those generational movies that will probably be looked at years from now, where people are like, "Holy shit, this was a good movie," and they'll probably remake it at some point. You know what I mean? You know when all the actors are super old, and I mean they're older now, but once they're no longer able to act, they'll probably be like, "Hey, let's remake this with a new Beetlejuice." And I'm sure, my generation or the generation before me will probably complain about them recasting Beetlejuice. But yeah, that'll be down the line some point
If
because
I'm still alive, I'll be complaining because there is only one Beetlejuice, and his name is Michael fucking Keaton. And I'm sorry, and, I love Winona Ryder too, though. She was great in it, and as well.
see,
But
the funny thing is that when you say that he was the only blank and it was Michael fucking Keaton, there are two words that could go in for that blank. For you, it would be
for
both
me,
Beetlejuice and Batman.
absolutely, he is. Yeah, he's my Batman, and not that I don't appreciate others, because to be truth be told, I appreciate everybody who has played Batman in some capacity. Um, while a varying degree, I mean, even I'm even talking, Adam West. I have a fondness for that quirky '60s show, and even when fucking Val Kilmer and George. I mean, I know they weren't the greatest, but I still have. You know what? They did all right. And in the newer, Christian Bale obviously was great, but yeah, but man, for me, shit, my Batman will always be Michael Keaton, and fuck all you other posers.
you know, I for me, I think my Batman will always be Christian Bale. I think that was the Batman that had the most impact on me. Um, but I really like Pattinson's Batman. I think that Batman was super good, and he
Yeah,
deserves that recognition. I'm excited for the next Batman that comes from what's the fellow's name? Matt Reeves, I think it is.
yeah. But again, you got
Uh,
to consider, right, man? When Michael Keaton's Batman came out in '89, I was 14 years old. We
yeah,
didn't have superhero movies, and this came out, and I was just like, fuck yeah. There is a Batman movie. I'm gonna watch this bitch so many times and everything else, and so I don't care what you think. I don't care. I know this is not a Batman podcast, but you can like them all or whatever. But you still, man, you got to watch Batman '89. It's still got to be an appreciation for. It's a pretty damn good person, representation of Batman and everything else. And I mean, Jack Nicholson as the joke. Come on, Prince doing the soundtrack. Good lord, just uh it was amazing.
yeah, no, absolutely. But like you said, this isn't a Batman podcast. We could probably make it a Batman podcast, but I don't know. I don't think anybody would want to watch that right now, especially since they are listening to the horror podcast.
That's right. We have the capability, but we shouldn't. Just
What
because
is
you
it?
can doesn't mean you should.
With great power comes great responsibility. That's Spider-Man, but
That's Spider-Man, not Batman.
but anywho, moving on. April 1st, 2011, we have Insidious. Now, we've talked extensively about Insidious in some way, shape, or form in the past. And, we had an entire series review when, the Red Door came out. So, we won't dwell too much on it, but fantastic movie. Everybody in it is amazing. And I know that they're making some other in-universe content at some point in the future.
Yeah. If you want to know, if you want to know more what we think, go back in the archives. I'll leave it at that.
There you go. But, all right, moving on now to some upcoming releases. The Rule of Jenny Penn is coming to Shudder on March 28th. It is described as confined to a secluded rest home and trapped within his stroke-ridden body. A former judge must stop an elderly psychopath who employs a child's puppet to abuse the home's residents with deadly consequences. And we will be reviewing this next episode. The Rule of Jenny Penn, this sounds like a very unique film. The concept is very interesting, not something I've ever heard of myself. And it's definitely framed in a very interesting way. So I'll definitely be interested to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that description and you're kind of like, what? What the fuck does that mean? It's like it's a little all over the place, but I don't know. I know Stephen King got to watch it like a whatever, in advance. Then he says he loved it and he thought it was great. So you know what? I mean, if Stephen King thinks so, I mean, it's got to be all right. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing it and seeing stroke-ridden bodies and child's puppets and I don't know, a elderly psychopath. I mean, there's a lot happening just in that description alone. And I want to see how they put all that over into the movie and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on there, so I'll be very curious to see, how it all, like I said, how it all shakes out and what it all looks like. But we'll see. It should be fun. But moving on now to Death of a Unicorn, starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. It comes to theaters on March 28th. It is described as father-daughter duo Elliot and Ridley hit a unicorn with their car and bring it to their wilderness retreat of a mega-wealthy pharmaceutical CEO. This is definitely a horror comedy, for sure. I mean, Paul Rudd being in this, I think after Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers, any horror movie he's in has to be part comedy, contractually probably. So, Death of the Unicorn. I mean, it's a hell of a premise. I'd probably check that out.
Yeah, I don't. The whole thing sounds wacky, but when you got Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, I think they can pull off wacky. And
yeah,
I don't know, but some reason I in the back of my mind, when you're talking about horror and you're talking about whatever else, you got to watch that pharmaceutical CEO. I think that sounds like the villain to me, but we'll see.
I mean, that's probably a pretty astute observation of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say what I want to say, but yeah, absolutely. Anywho, moving on to Blumhouse's The Woman in the Yard hits theaters on March 28th, and it is described as a mysterious woman repeatedly appears in a family's front yard, often delivering chilling warnings and unsettling messages, leaving them to question their identity or her identity, motives, and potential dangers she might pose. The Woman in the Yard actually reminds me of the person who comes and appears in my yard pretty often. It's the pizza delivery guy, but I don't know how he keeps coming to my house. I'm kidding. This sounds like a fun movie. It sounds unique. I saw the trailer for it within a movie I recently saw in theaters, but I don't remember which one. It looks fun. I think this would be an interesting premise as well. Don't know if I'll go see it in theaters, but maybe a streaming release.
Yeah, I don't think this is a theatrical viewing for me. It just, I don't know. Maybe I can be pleasantly surprised, but there's not enough there to, I don't know. That's a pretty vague description to nothing there hooks me. But I live in a wacky neighborhood, and there's mysterious people all the time that come down the street and say all kinds of weird shit. So maybe I'm just acclimated to this kind of behavior. But Blue House is, I have a lot of faith in them. So there is that. But I don't know, and I haven't heard a lot of hype about this, so it makes me wonder.
No.
So I don't
That,
know.
that was what I was gonna say too. Is I haven't seen like a lot of stuff about it, so it's like I do kind of question like, hey, what's this about? What's going on here? But should be fun. We'll see.
Yep.
But anywho, moving on. I think that does it for all of our news, birthdays, anniversaries, and upcoming releases. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break. And while we're taking that quick break, follow us on social media. This is the typical plug here. Make sure you do all that right now. And when we come back, we'll have our official reviews of both Bloody Axe Wound and Popeye the Slayer Man.
Hey, Bruiser buddies, I want you to listen to Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty. Every week, he has the roughest and toughest interviews in the podcast world today, with the best guests you could ask for. There's no bums on this show. Let Dave Dynasty be your podcasting tag team partner and listen to Wrestling Nostalgia while drinking beer, smoking cigars, and busting heads. Just look it up on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe today, because the Bruiser said so.
Hey ho, everybody. Subscribe to the Pinhead Pod, the Ramones fan podcast bringing you interviews, news, deep dives, and much more. Look it up on your favorite podcast platform. That is Pinhead Pod.
Right, and we're back here on Listen to the Screams. We got 2 reviews. We're going to try to keep these brief because I feel like we've gone along with everything else. First, we're talking about Bloody Axe Wound, written and directed by Matthew John Lawrence, starring Sari Arambulu, Billy Burke, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and others. The movie was released March 21st on Shudder. Now, here's my thing. This movie came out, or was leading up to the coming out. I didn't know Billy Burke was in this. For some reason, I never saw that being plugged. I knew Jeffrey Dean Morgan because I saw something that he was in. I saw the description, which intrigued me. And I gotta say, this movie, right? There's a lot of comedy in it, but this movie was super fun. It was just kind of lighthearted. It had a good blend of the horror and comedy. Enough there to pull your heartstrings a little bit. Whatever they call that, person interest, or whatever, captivating characters, whatever you want to call it. There was enough there to kind of hook you. The cast, as you would suspect, was absolutely spectacular. Everybody from top to bottom, I thought delivered, acted really well. The main, I don't know who she was, the main friend of the primary character, that the crush girl, she was great. I don't know who she was. I've never seen her or anything, but man, she was really good. I love everything Billy Burke does. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, just had a kind of a small part, but I love Billy Burke, and I love, this is, I guess a little, but he was, performed under a lot of makeup and prosthetics and stuff in this. But and it's funny, me and Monica were saying, right, we watch the movie the show Fire Country, and Billy Burke's in it, right, and everything else. But no matter what Billy Burke does, and he's done lots of stuff, we always refer to him as Charlie, because from Twilight. It's my first memory of him, and I'm not even a Twilight fan, but that's always, it was always the joke back then when everybody was like, "Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob or whatever?" And I was always like, "I'm Team Charlie. I like Charlie. He was funny." And but I do like Billy Burke, and I thought he was really good in this. I thought the girl was really good. Again, it was fun. I mean, the movie was enjoyable. The comedy was was good. And again, though, I like the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but I think this is one of those movies which we've said about a few things here and there. This movie obviously I think is targeted for an audience a little younger than me, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it and still like it. But I think it's really gonna hit in that 20 something demographic. As a fun movie for them. But again, I didn't know what to expect with this movie going into it because we'd only saw brief descriptions of whatever else, and I think from at least what was in my mind and my expectations, I thought it overachieved a little bit. I thought it was really kind of a fun watch. So, Ike, what'd you think of Bloody Axe Wound?
Well, first of all, I had to look at IMDb afterwards because I was like, who played Roger Bladecut? And then when I saw it was Billy Burke, I was like, how the fuck, what? It doesn't
Yeah,
look anything like him.
no,
And like you said, there were definitely some prosthetics at play, which honestly, weirdly enough, both of these movies include a character with heavy prosthetics, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
yeah,
But honestly, Bloody Axeman really blew me out of the water. I was incredibly surprised by this. I was not expecting the movie that I got when I was watching it. Um, First and foremost, I love the music and the sort of analog vibe to this because there's a lot of analog features with some of the sound effects and the sort of like the VHS tapes and the whole concept around it.
yeah,
It sort of twists that stereotypical serial killer kills X, Y, and Z groups for X, Y, and Z reasons. So it kind of turns that stereotype and trope on its head because obviously they're, trying to make you sort of feel for these different groups in a different way than you would normally with a serial killer movie. And it also approaches the concept of killing a little bit differently. As the description, if you were to look on IMDb, there's a little bit of family heritage as for why they're killing, and it's definitely an interesting way to present a slasher movie. It's not typical. It's definitely a meta slasher. And honestly, I was really happy with it. I was really happy with how they did it. We had some pretty gruesome shots in this, some pretty interesting, moments. And like you said, even pulled at your heartstrings a little bit. There are some pretty interesting parts with that. And I don't think there was a single weak actor in the bunch. Even though
mhm,
I didn't know a lot of them, they all really were superb actors, and I was just really, really happy with how that turned out. And even though the effects and I'm sure the budget wasn't super duper high, this did not feel like a low budget movie.
no,
They definitely worked within the bounds of what they were given. Um, Everything they did, it was, I just looked it up. Oh, never mind. That's the gross. I was about to say, oh, is that really all that it took to make the movie? But no. Um, Anywho, got off track. But I mean, they worked with what they had. This didn't seem like it was missing anything. You know what I mean? This felt like this was presented in the exact same way that it was meant to be presented. It didn't feel like I was watching this and being like, oh, they could have done this better or they could have done this better. No, they really worked within the confines of their budget and they really made a spectacular movie with what they were given. And yeah, I can't compliment it enough. I think that this is really a real underdog this year. I was not expecting Bloody Axe Wound to be a stellar movie in the way that it was.
yeah. I agree. All right, and yeah, the movie. I mean, it had some blood, right? There was some, there was a little bit in there for the people that like that, and we've said it before, right? A good director, a good crew will be able to work and hide the flaws and use a little smoke and mirrors to get a little more out of it. And I think this movie definitely did. And it's funny to me that you have a movie and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it, but it's just like in a bit part. It's so funny.
Right.
That yeah, but yeah, I fully enjoyed it. And this we talk a lot about rewatchability, and this movie's got a lot of that, a lot of rewatch value. Um, and I think it'll be just as fun to rewatch. So, all right, before we move on, let's rate this thing. Ike, out of five, what are you giving Bloody Axe Wound?
I'm giving this a solid 4 out of 5, honestly. in my opinion, this movie is the pinnacle of what a low budget slasher should be. It really gives you what you want in a slasher movie, and it like I said, it blew me out of the park. It truly blew me out of the water. I was super surprised by this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think it's a 4 out of 5 because horror, the term horror comedy is a weird thing to walk, and this movie walked it perfectly. Um, there wasn't a lot of what you would call. There was right there. Actually, there was some of that horror value, and they knew when to put it in there. Some suspense, even almost borderline type jump type scares. But they didn't, and the comedy wasn't forced. Again, with a good cast, it felt very natural. So yeah, I think for this is kind of that prototypical what a horror comedy should be and how they should deliver and how they can meld those two worlds and work. So, all right. So a consensus 4 out of 5. Now let's move on. Our second movie is Popeye the Slayer Man, written by John Doolin, Kyle Carvin, Jeff Miller, Robert Michael Ryan, and based on characters created by E.C. Cigar. Directed by Robert Michael Ryan, starring John Robert Stevens, Elena Giuliano, Sean Michael Conway, and others. The movie was released on March 21st in limited theaters and video on demand. Now, we talked about public domain horror and this and that. I truly have to say, I think Popeye the Slayer Man, again, I think it delivered really, really well within this genre. I really enjoyed it. Again, there's when you're dealing within horror, you try to put a kernel of believability if you can, some reasoning. They gave you some reasoning in this movie behind why there's this Popeye, why there's this person, this thing. So they gave you a reasoning, and you got to stretch imagination, but come on, it's horror, and but there was plenty of story. There was even again with this one, there was a little bit of almost some sympathy for the villain, right? And they pulled on your heartstrings a little bit. There was to me again, there was a little bit of predictability. I knew what was happening. I had a pretty solid idea what was gonna a reveal, what was gonna happen. You kind of got that vibe, but it's still okay. But there's a couple fun moments. There was Wimpy, the character from Popeye. There was a little little cameo bit with him where he's in the bar, right? And the guy's like, "Oh, we do not sell hamburgers, and we do not sell hamburgers on IOU." And it's just kind of a funny thing there. But again, as far as public domain horror, man, I thought this was a pretty damn good one. It wasn't super hokey to me. I thought Popeye was a very strong villain in this movie, with a touch of humanity to him. I thought the cast did pretty well. There's obviously, like with a lot of horror movies, a couple characters that you knew were in there just to be the Star Trek quote unquote red shirts that were going to get killed, but that's okay, right? With this kind of movie, you got to have some body count, and I thought it was fun. This is a movie again that I would completely rewatch, because I enjoyed it. I really thought the Popeye character design was really good. I thought there was enough there to keep him looking like the Popeye we all know, but while making him look, scary. If you break down Popeye with those weird ass forearms and everything else, he's already a little scary. But I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. So, Ike, what'd you think of Popeye the Slayer Man?
I gotta say, I've seen Popeye when I was younger. Right? Like I think I said this in a previous episode. I used to love Popeye, and that's how my grandmother got me to eat spinach. She said, if you eat spinach like Popeye, you'll get super strong. But I'm learning that was all a lie, because if you eat spinach, you turn into something like Popeye, right?
That's
I'm
right.
kidding. If you watch the movie, you'll get it. But hey, Popeye the Slayer Man. First and foremost, while it was a little goofy, how Popeye looks in this movie is actually hilarious. Um, he looks a little silly and a little cheesy, but honestly, it kind of adds to sort of the surrealness of this movie. That, like, hey, what if you translated like what Popeye looks like in a cartoon to somebody what they look like in real life?
Yeah.
And the prosthetics that they used were pretty decent. I mean,
Yeah.
I would venture to guess that most of their budget was spent on making Popeye look the way he did. And then, if not that, probably the cool killing effects and the blood effects. Um, but yeah, Popeye the Slayer Man, it's super unique. Um, I can't say that I've seen the other Popeye movie that they made, so I can't really compare the two. But if the other one is even moderately like this, it's probably at least a good time. But I don't know. There is just something charming about this movie. It's funny. It has all of those little tidbits to make it Popeye esque, like you said. The references, the Wimpy, and then what was his villain? Like, the villain's name, was it Pluto? Was the villain
Bluto. Yeah.
Bluto? Yeah, Pluto's the dog from Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But so Blue, so I they didn't have any reference to Bluto. I was really hoping that they would somewhere. Um, but I didn't really catch that reference. I caught they did have the reference to olive oil, and I won't say what that reference is because it's pretty story important. And then, like you said, they had that little wimpy reference, but maybe they'll make another one, and maybe the Bluto will be like a villain or something. I don't know. That'd be cool. But yeah, like I said, it was a really fun movie. As someone who watched Popeye as a kid, it was really funny to see like an adult version of Popeye, which is Popeye the Slayer Man. And what is it he says? I am what
I
I
am what I am.
am.
Yeah. I like that. But it's funny because if you break down, right, you think about, Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers are pretty, I mean, just Popeye's not that much more of a stretch of the imagination than any of those guys, right? And I don't know, there was whatever reason Popeye was it kind of worked. It as a property, as the way they wrote it, um, I I just thought it kind of clicked, and it kind of they everything they did made it make sense somewhat, and it had a story to it, and it I thought it was fun. And again, it's a movie that, like I said, I would probably rewatch at some point in time. Um, I just thought it was enjoyable. So, all right, so let's rate this one. And you went first last time, so I'll go first this time. Again, I liked it. I'm going to give this one, to me, like we always said, a 3 is the middle of the line, enjoyable, pretty decent movie. But I really thought Popeye was just a notch above this. So I'm going to give Popeye the Slayer Man a 3.5 out of 5. Because again, I don't know why, but it just, like I said, it worked. Somehow it worked for me. So what are you thinking for Popeye the Slayer Man?
I think I do have to agree. Especially these two movies were both fantastic, but this kind of perfectly exemplifies sort of our rating system. Bloody Axe Spoon really pushed the envelope of like a slasher and sort of really kind of improved upon the typical trope. But not to say that Popeye the Slayer Man wasn't a really good movie. It's just that it was pretty standard fare as far as good public domain horror goes. And I think that the best public domain horror movie we've seen so far is likely Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, most likely, if I remember our ratings correctly. So um, this one would be 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5, because it isn't the same level as Bloody Axe Spoon or some of the other public domain horror films. So I think 3.5 out of 5 would perfectly level this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was super fun, and again, all I could say is I don't know why. Some reason it just worked. Popeye worked in this role. And because again, Popeye's not like ever been this cute, cuddly character. So
No.
he's always been a little gruff and grumpy. So I think that's why maybe he kind of works in this role. So all right, then that wraps up the reviews. And like we said, next episode we will be reviewing the Rule of Jenny Penn. So I say thank you to our wives and all the listeners and followers for all of your support and interactions. Like I said earlier, be sure to subscribe to us on social media. We're on all the platforms. Just search for Listen to Their Screams or Listen to Screams. Listen, the number 2 is Screams, and you will find us there. So, all right, before we close out this jam-packed episode, anything else you want to add?
Oh man, I don't think so. I think if I had anything else, we might push it over the line. No, I'm kidding. No, just honestly, it was a good week for movies. I mean, both Popeye the Slayer Man and Bloody Axeman. I was really surprised with both of them.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we review movies, or if we do double reviews, at least one of them doesn't really make the cut, the proverbial cut. But both of these, I think, were above par, and honestly, that was really surprising, really fun for me. And I'm excited to see, what 2025 holds for us yet. Hopefully, we'll get things that push it even further, and maybe we'll get our first 5 out of 5 this year. I guess we won't know until it happens, right?
Never know. But yeah, I agree. I think both these movies were fun watches, and I was pleasantly surprised by both. I didn't know what to expect out of either one of them, and for what they were, they both did it very well. I think, like you said, Bloody Axe Wound kind of maybe shook it up, and did its thing a little better. But Popeye the Slayer Man, it was a pretty damn good example of a public domain horror done right, done pretty good. So I would highly advise people to go watch both. So all right, then let's close out and get out of here. Again, next episode, The Rule of Jenny Penn. We'll see if we agree with Stephen King, who said it was a really, really good movie. So we'll see. We'll see what we think if we are in line with the demented mind of Stephen King. So until that episode and next week, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.